How is it that the language of a city on an island off of Europe, London, became the world language for academia, for computers, technology, and business? How did that happen? Well, part of it has to do with a man named Samuel Johnson. He was one of the greatest intellectuals of all time, and he was a contemporary of George Washington. Now, Samuel Johnson was a character, to say the least. A guy named James Boswell wrote a definitive biography, perhaps one of the most definitive biographies of all time, against which all biographies are measured, about Samuel Johnson, called The Life of Johnson. I got a copy of this book in the mid-'80s, and I just finished it, and it's 2023. The Life of Johnson. All, how many pages? 1,200 pages of very thick stuff. And I would just invite everyone to read it. It used to be in the UK, perhaps it's still the case, that you're not an educated person unless you can quote from The Life of Johnson, Boswell's Life of Johnson. Well, why is Samuel Johnson so important? Well, the reason for that is that he wrote the dictionary. And before Johnson's dictionary, which was a big academic dictionary of the English language, which was published in the 1700s, before that, English was sort of a little tribal language off the coast of Europe, and Latin was the most important language of academia, and people who went to universities could read Latin, did Latin, all that kind of stuff. But Latin was a dead language, and English was a living language. And Samuel Johnson compiled this massive dictionary, which is the ancestor of today's Oxford English Dictionary. And it created a standard for the English language, which allowed it to become, over time, with a lot of other factors, the primary shared language of the world. I'm speaking to you in English. Right now, you're listening in English, although you and I may have almost no English blood or ancestry in our family trees. So Samuel Johnson was not just, however, an academic. He was a faithful follower of Jesus Christ, and not just a private Jesus follower, but he believed in public religion. He believed in showing up in church. He believed that Jesus was a religious man, somebody who kept the festivals and somebody who went to the synagogue and attended things and was part of a corporate collective called Judaism at the time. And Johnson was a committed follower of the Church of England. And I'd like to read to you from one of his prayers, which is recorded in Boswell's Life of Johnson. This is from Easter Eve in 1761. Johnson wrote this prayer as he prepared his heart to receive communion on Easter Sunday. Throughout the Life of Johnson biography, he's running off to church with Boswell or with other people and commenting on the sermons. And at the end of his life, he definitely was most concerned with his relationship with the Lord and his eternal destiny. So I'd like to read to you from his journal entry from 1761. This is Samuel Johnson. Since the communion of last Easter, I have led a life so dissipated and useless, and my terrors and perplexities have so much increased, that I am under great depression and discouragement. Yet I purpose to present myself before God tomorrow with humble hope that he will not break the bruised reed. Come unto me, all ye that travail. I have resolved, I hope not presumptuously, that I am afraid to resolve again, yet hoping in God I steadfastly purpose to lead a new life. O God, enable me, for Jesus Christ's sake. My purpose is to avoid idleness, to regulate my sleep as to length and choice of hours, to set down every day what shall be done the day following, to keep a journal, to worship God more diligently, to go to church every Sunday, to study the Scriptures and read a certain portion of the Scriptures every week. Almighty and most merciful Father, look down upon my misery with pity. Strengthen me, that I may overcome all sinful habits. Grant that I may with effectual faith commemorate the death of thy Son Jesus Christ, so that all corrupt desires may be extinguished, and all vain thoughts may be dispelled. Enlighten me with true knowledge, animate me with reasonable hope, comfort me with a just sense of thy love, and assist me to the performance of all thy holy purposes, that after the sins, errors, and miseries of this world, I may obtain everlasting happiness for Jesus Christ's sake, to whom, etc. Amen. Thus the prayer of Samuel Johnson, Easter Eve, 1761. A towering intellect, a celebrity, so to speak, in London at the time, and yet a very spiritually humble man seeking to improve his life. Someone who struggled with sleep and often insomnia, stayed up late at night and slept through till 11, 12 in the morning and wanted to fix that, wanted to be more disciplined in his life. This is a person who was a devout follower of Jesus his whole life, but yet every year took stock of where he was with the Lord. It's a good lesson for all of us. I would recommend The Life of Johnson to anyone who wants to read it. It's kind of like reading the Bible. Of course, not on the level of the Bible, but one of those things you need to read if you want to be an educated person and understand how this language of ours came to be the most prominent way to communicate in the world. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow.